Hey everybody, Jeppy here, and today we are ranking every single ultimate here in Valorant. Now, I do want to start off by saying that it is very difficult to get an accurate rating for all of the ultimates in Valorant when considering the vast differences in skill levels between your below average, average, and top ranked and pros. So I'm basing this video off of what an average player will be able to accomplish with these ultimates with a value ceiling and a value floor. For example, we're going to talk about like the Chamber Tour de Force, Jett's Bladestorm, Neon's Overdrive. These are ultimates where if you pop your ult and then you die immediately, you get absolutely zero value out of it, but you have a very high like exponential value curve that you can get if you pop your ult and get like 2 or 3, or get a lot of value or get some kills with those ultimates. That requires a better player to hit the knives for Jett's Bladestorm, land the shots with Chamber's Tour de Force, or get that value with Neon's ultimate as well, which is a lot easier if you are amazing at the game with a well-coordinated team. So I'm going to be basing this off of your average player. Your average player isn't going to be hitting a lot of your your headshots with the Bladestorm, your shots with the Chamber's Tour de Force, and so on. So when considering all of this, we're going to start off with the Breach. Now, I think Breach's Rolling Thunder is definitely an ability, especially for your average players, like we already talked about, for an average player to get an insane amount of pretty much guaranteed value right off the bat. All you have to do is click the ultimate ability, and even if you're not the best, or like lining up angles or whatever and making sure you're hitting every single little spot, that you are guaranteeingly going to get a ton of just concussing just mayhem heading down onto site or any area you want to clear out. And it could get potentially the entire team and just straight up win rounds, straight up win gunfights. So even with your average player, that's something that's very easy for them to do. So a Breach, Rolling Thunder, I'm going to put in an A tier, and throughout the video, maybe at the end of the video, or throughout, we'll probably move some agents around. Like say, I figure out like, maybe the Rolling Thunder isn't like the best, we'll put it down to B tier. But as of right now, I think Breach's Rolling Thunder definitely deserves an A tier. I don't think it goes to S, and we'll see, maybe we bump it down to B once we get more agents on the board. But yeah, I think A is really good to start off with. Brimstone's Orbital Strike. The Orbital Strike is it's very versatile. It's not only, it doesn't only have to be used for post-plant scenarios, which is what a lot of people you see with Brimstone, specifically only save it for post-plant scenarios. And sometimes it takes quite a few rounds of sitting on their ult for a while. You can use it to clear out areas like U-Haul, for example, on Bind is super popular with it. I think Brimstone's ultimate is very solid. It is quite versatile, like I said, and it can pretty much guaranteeingly win you. It can guarantee you win you rounds. Especially if you're using it for line, for not post plant scenarios. Geez, we put the orbit. No, let's start off at top A tier. Let's start off at top right alongside Breach as well. Let's move on to Cypher next, and Cypher, I believe, is called Neural Theft. His ultimate ability. Guys, even though it just got buffed, it still is one of the weakest ultimates in the game. It is nice how you're not scrambling to find a body as soon as someone dies. Like they can be throughout the entire round, a body can be on the floor and you can still throw your hat on it. And it is nice that it does have 2 pings now, but it's something we'll see a lot of with the other like recon ultimates like Skye, maybe Yoru, other abilities that have like a recon aspect to it. The ultimate Cypher's is still consistently one of the weaker ones in the game. You could ask a lot of people, unless you're just a straight up just Cypher main, that he Neural Theft isn't that great of an ultimate. Let's move on to Jett's Bladestorm. So like I said earlier, this is your average player. So the one thing that is very beneficial for these types of ultimates, where you can straight up get kills in place of a weapon, like your Bladestorm, your Tour de Force, and where else, Overdrive over here, is if you do get kills with it, it is insanely valuable because you invested no money into it besides maybe buying shield or whatever, and you are taking utility and credits away from your enemy team just by having free ultimate value. But with that said, I do think that Jett's ultimate, the Bladestorm, is one of the harder abilities to use, I will say. If you really aren't hitting the headshots, or if you're missing a lot, like you could very well get no kills with the Bladestorm. So even though it is very good for eco rounds or to get a lot of eco picks or whatever, I'm gonna put the Bladestorm in B tier, because remember, average player, if you throw this in one of the best players, if you put Jett in 10's hands, like it's gonna be incredible. But average player for the Bladestorm, they're not really getting hitting a ton of shots, especially those headshots, and you may only walk out with 1 kill or maybe even none. Let's move on to Omen, and I think Omen, what is Omen's ultimate called? I totally forget what it's called. It's called From the Shadows. That's right, I totally forgot about that. Really? That's the ultimate From the Shadows? Okay. Omen's ultimate is probably gonna be down here with Cypher as well. I think it's gonna be better than Cypher's, so we'll move Cypher over this side. But guys, Omen's ultimate, while it is decently versatile, you can use it to, scare the enemies into thinking they're like, you're behind them, or to get better positions, or quick rotates. Say the spike is across the map, you grab the spike, bring it back to you. I feel like with Omen's ultimate, it's one that you're sitting on for a while and waiting for the right situation. And that doesn't always pop up immediately within every round. Sometimes it takes quite a few rounds for you to get in that situation where you could get even decent value from it. Now, I will say, when you are able to get plants across this, across the map, or get behind an enemy team and spook them and get a couple picks from that, it does work well. But the higher the ranks you get, especially once you start getting toward those average, the average and above average ranks, you start to lose value with it. Like the second an enemy Omen pops his ult, that you gotta like clear your spawn and stuff to make sure he's not behind you. And I feel like, it's just, you gotta agree with me that I don't think Omen's ult is necessarily one of the best in the game. And in fact, probably one of the worst. Next up, we have Phoenix's Run It Back ultimate. And I think this is actually a really, really good ultimate because it essentially makes that round a 6v5. I mean, you can play as reckless and, aggressive and, no fear for your life at all when you're using Phoenix's ult. And, you can still use utility and stuff and then go back to it. It's basically just giving you an extra life pretty much, which is really, really great for, entering onto a site or, making, turning the tides in around. Really, really, really solid ability. In fact, I think it's one of the best ultimates in the game. Do we want to put it at an A tier around like a Breach Rolling Thunder or a Brimstone Orbital Strike? And it doesn't take much to charge at all. Like, it is one of the quicker abilities in the game to charge up, and makes it 65. You get a couple picks and then still go back, and once your ult either runs out or you die in your ultimate, and then you still go back to your body and can still keep on fighting the round. I really do think that Phoenix's Run It Back is an insane ultimate. Is it on this? I don't know. All right, we'll go back to it. Maybe we'll see. Maybe we got to move some things around, but so far I'm really liking the S tier category for it. So Raze's Showstopper. It is one of the most inconsistent ults in the game, I would say. How many times, for any Raze players out there, how many times do you swear you shot the Showstopper, the rocket launcher, right on someone and they did not die? And then sometimes you shot nowhere near them and it gets insane amounts of value. I will say, I don't think it's the best ultimate in the game. It's probably mid. If it wasn't so buggy and if it was very consistent, I would move it maybe up to a high B or A tier. But to be honest, guys, like, there's a lot of times where you don't get a lot of value with Raze's ult. You can either completely miss. A lot of the times the enemies will just try to run away as much as they can. For your average players, remember, this is for average players. A lot of times they're just going to try to just run away. So I think maybe if they make it more consistent, we can bump it up to a B tier or maybe a low A. But I think right now a C tier is probably going to be the best a Showstopper can get for the average player and average value. Next up is going to be Sage's Ressurection. I'm pretty sure it's called Ressurection, right? Yeah. Okay. So Ressurection. Okay. So yeah, this is an insane ultimate. I mean, clearly it's going to be S tier. Anything you can do to add an extra life to the round is going to be incredible. How many times does this happen where a Sage has resurrected a person on your team or the enemy team, and then that person goes off and gets like an insane amount of value, or clutches around or something, or even just to like just even the odds, or get the odds in your favor for a round. Say it's a 1v1, Sage reses someone, now it's a 2v1, you guys can trade it now. Like, it's insane. Even for your average player, it just adds so much. Like, the value floor for Sage's Ressurection is incredible. You immediately are going to get value. Now, of course, the person you res can die right away, but you can even use that to your advantage and bait the person that you're resing. The defender or whoever the enemy has to choose. Are they going to shoot you, who's trying to bait the res, or are they going to shoot the person that, is getting resurrected? So even at its lowest amount of value, Sage's Ressurection is incredible. I mean, clearly S tier. Moving on, we have Sova's Hunter's Fury. Another really solid ultimate that you can use for post-plant scenarios like Brimstone, where you getting people off the spike. It's a little more versatile, I would say, than Brimstone's Orbital Strike. I will say that because it's a lot easier to line up to, maybe it's not a lot easier, but you are able to get people off of plants, or clear long lines of sights with it as well. And it pairs really, really well with Sova's kit as a whole. So say you use a recon bolt, or if you use your recon drone, whatever it's called, owl drone, to tag someone and then straight up just get a pick off of that. I will say it is better than Brimstone's Orbital Strike, in my opinion, but I don't think it's quite S tier. Yes, post-plant scenarios are amazing, like I said earlier, and it pairs really well with this kit. But I think that's a good spot for Sova's Huntress Fury. Really, really good ult. Next up, we have Viper's Pit, or Viper Pit. Yeah. One of the best ultimates in the game. I might actually put it as the best ultimates in the game. When Viper pops her ults, you know, you basically just, that site is unlocked. You pretty much 9 times out of 10 will not be able to push that site anymore. Or say you're in a retake situation and the attackers pop the ult around the spike. That just made that defuse almost most of the time impossible. Like, the amount of DK that happens so quickly when an enemy pushes into the Viper's Pit really puts the odds in your favor of getting that kill or winning that round. Because the longer the enemy stays in that Viper's Pit and it goes down really quick, the better your odds are on winning that round. So yeah, straight up, I mean, Viper's Pit is just amazing. It's got a really wide area of effects too. You get to shut down large amounts of map and very important parts of the map simply with just popping your ultimate. It's insane. Next up we have Reyna. I think it's called Empress, right? Yeah, Empress. This is another one of the ultimates, like, you know, Bladestorm, Overdrive, Tour de Force, where the floor for value that you get is not guaranteed. You could pop the ult and get absolutely no value at all, or you could pop the ult and do really insanely well. But, you know, the value for your average player is going to be okay with it. It's going to be okay, but I don't think it's going to be truly amazing. When it works, but when you pop the ult and then die immediately to a Vandal headshot or, you know, whatever, it just, there's, you know, it's just wasted. I'm gonna put the Empress in C. I don't think it definitely deserves D tier by any stretch of the imagination, but it's really not that great of an ult when you really think about it. Comparing to other ults, like, it's not better than Showstopper. I would say it's probably better than Neural Theft and From the Shadows, but I don't know, man. I don't think it goes any higher than low C tier. Up next, we have Killjoy's Lockdown. I mean, I don't really need to say much about it. You know how good it is. But it has quite a few counters. You can use the Orbital Strike. You can use a, you know, Huntress Fury. You can use even a KO grenade through a wall. There's a lot of counters to a KJ ult, and there really only is like a short window of period where it has a great amount of effect. You know, it does take a little while to count down. It gives enemies plenty of time to either leave a site or, you know, try to push onto the Killjoy or the Lockdown to destroy it. And I feel like a lot of times, while it does get a good amount of value, I will say, and then the floor, the value floor is pretty good. Like, you know 100% that the enemies are going to have to either react to it by destroying it or leaving. That's the only thing they can do. They can't stay in it because they will die. So there is a lot of value you could get, you know, just by putting it down, but it has a lot of counters and you need to act on it too to capitalize on the value of people, you know, trying to leave site or whatever, or leave the area to kill them. I will say it's a solid B tier ultimate. Solid B tier ultimate. In some situations, it's gonna be really good. In a lot of situations, with average players, it's gonna be okay. Next, we have Skye's. What is Skye's ultimate called? It is called Seekers. Oh, duh, Seekers out. That's right. So Skye's Seekers are all right. It's not the best information gathering device out there. I will say it is better than Cypher's ultimate. I don't think it's quite D tier. You know, it is 3 separate areas, you know, 3 separate, you know, seeker little jellyfish things that can go around and find the enemies on the map, and you can use them to get trades. You know, the enemies will have to prioritize in shooting the seekers, you know, so they don't get nearsighted and found out. So you can use it as a way to bait them. And another great information tool. How many times has this happened? It's so annoying when it does, when an enemy Skye pops the seekers and you're trying to pull off a flank, and now they know that a flank's on them, and that sucks. How many times has your Skye popped like their seekers, and you know that the site you're about to hit is completely clear or only has one person on it, so you know to push that, you know, said person. I don't think Skye's Seekers deserve a B tier up here. I don't think it deserves a D tier. So let's move it around C. Your floor for Skye's Seekers is better than Reyna's floor. It's not the top value you get isn't as good as, you know, a Reyna popping off with Empress. I'm gonna put it nice in the solid middle of C tier. Next up is Yoru's Dimensional Shift. It's okay ultimate. Obviously, you could use it as another information gathering tool. You could call out to your, teammates where all the enemies are. And of course, you yourself can use it to get into kind of crazy positions that only really Omen would be able to get to. If I'm gonna be honest, guys, I think yours dimensional shift does pretty much everything Omen's ultimate does, but better. And then even flash for yourself to, get out of your ult and engage in a gunfight, or you could TP across the map. Say you grab Spike in your ult and then have your TP set up across the map too. There's a lot you can do with yours ultimate. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'm gonna have it in middle of B tier, not quite A tier, S tier. I will say you could get a little more value than Jett's Bladestorm, because the floor of it is you are going to get information. You will regardless get information, whereas if a Jett pops her Bladestorm and dies immediately, like there's no value to be had there. But yeah, I think yours ultimate is pretty good. Up next, we have Astra's what is it called? Astral Divide or Cosmic Divide? It's called Cosmic Divide. Pretty solid ultimate. Nothing crazy. Being able to have block gunfire and stuff through a long, I mean literally across the entire map, line of sight. It's pretty good. Dampen sounds as well, but it's not amazing. I'm actually gonna put it down probably like low C tier. It's a decent ult. It's decent, but it's not insane. It really isn't. It's kind of, yeah, I think there's a good spot for it. Let's see. The floor value you could get is pretty decent. You are going to be blocking off a line of sight no matter what. So I think low C tier is going to be good for Astra. Moving on, we have KO's null command. KO's null command is really good, and the value you get grows exponentially depending on the enemies and the lobby that you're in. Are you in a great lobby, above average, or pro lobby or whatever, or really good like top ranks and with really good enemies who use their utility to a great degree, and taking away that utility while you yourself and your team have all the utility as well, like that's really good. But if you were in a average lobby, right, where your average player isn't using the utility to the best of the degree and mostly relies on their gunplay as well, the null command is okay at that. It is nice to get that RPM boost with KO, and of course being able to get revived as well is insane. I think KO's null command is going to be a low, probably above Rolling Thunder, and but not quite S tier. Now if you were in a pro league or top ranked, it would be S tier, but yeah, I think there's a pretty good spot for KO. Up next, we have Chamber's Tour de Force. So Chamber's Tour de Force is, we already talked about it a decent amount, where if you don't, if you die right away without getting a kill, like you're not going to have much value with it. But I will say, out of all the ultimates like that, the Tour de Force definitely is the best one. You get 5 shots, if you are good with them, you could simply just get an ace, and that's not really going to happen most of the time. Most of the time you're going to get like maybe 1-2 picks and then probably die or something after that. So for your average player, so that's already a good amount of value. And of course, having an op, I would prefer to have an op over a Bladestorm. It is a lot more generous. You get that body shot, and you aren't as mobile as Jett, when using your Bladestorm, but you are pretty mobile with Chamber. And then also the slowing AoE effect that happens when you do get that kill pretty much stops a push immediately. It's like a Sage slow orb mixed in with an op. It's really good. It's definitely the best version of an ultimate where you could, you don't buy a weapon, you get kills with it. I will say, for your average player, I'm gonna put it probably right there. Right there is a good spot for it. Not quite S tier. Again, maybe if you're pro league, you're gonna be S tier. If you're just gonna absolutely go off. Like, it doesn't even really have to be like a save round that use the op. Like, say someone on your team is needing a Vandal or Phantom or something, and if you have enough money to buy a gun, you can always drop it for your team and then pop your ult to Tour de Force. And it really is really good at that aspect as well when you are trying to manage eco and get on the same buy and stuff. So yeah, I think Chamber's Tour de Force is definitely good over here. Right there's a good spot. Moving on, we have Neon's Overdrive. Now, Neon's Overdrive is it's an okay ability. I'm just gonna put it right here for you guys. Now a lot of people really do hate going up against Neon's ult, and I will say to a degree sometimes it is pretty annoying. But also, I don't know if you guys have ever if you ever played Neon yourself, you know what I'm talking about, where you are just dashing onto site and you are putting out a good amount of damage with Neon's ult, but a one-shot Vandal headshot puts you down before you even have enough time to really, get him halfway. So at least with the Bladestorm and a Tour de Force, you can kill them immediately, or you know, you had the option to kill them immediately with a, you know, a headshot with Jett or a body shot, whatever, for chamber. But with Neon's ult, it takes a little more time for that to happen. And even in average lobbies, you know, headshots with vandals are happening pretty regularly. So say an agent can shut you, an enemy can shut you down almost immediately with a vandal or even phantom or an op or whatever, and you didn't even have enough time to even kill them. Even if you were going for the head and moving around and stuff and breaking line of sight or, you know, crosshair placement, you know, again, also same time, it is one of those abilities where the floor, the value floor is not the best if you die right away, like we just talked about, or the value ceiling can go incredibly high if you, again, didn't buy a weapon into the game or into the round and you maybe dropped it for a teammate as well, and spread out the eco, and then you pop your ult and get a couple kills. Like, there's a lot you can do with it. But yes, it does pair well with Neon's kit as a whole, but I think that's a good spot for Overdrive. Next up, we have Fade. Is it called Nightmare? Is Fade's called Nightmare? Oh, Nightfall. That's what it is. So Fade's ultimate, Nightfall. I'm gonna put it up in S tier. I'm gonna put it yeah, definitely up in S tier. Yeah, I think I'm gonna put Fade's Nightfall in S tier. It's like a Rolling Thunder, but better. Yeah, it doesn't concuss them, but it does near sight them a lot, and it deafens them, which is incredibly hard to, you know, to deal with. Like, and it lasts forever. The deafening effect lasts forever. You don't know where they're pushing from. It Fades trails, like her prowlers can, you know, follow the trail as well and near sight you again and stuff. Yeah, it marks them and stuff. You know where the trail is going to. You know if they backed out, if they tucked in a corner. It pairs insanely well with the rest of Fade's utility, and it makes pushing sites relatively easy and retakes relatively easy. Same thing with Rolling Thunder. You know, don't get me wrong. Same thing with Rolling Thunder, but makes it pretty easy to do so. Moving on, we have Harbor's. What's Harbor's ult called? I only used it like twice ever. Reckoning, the Reckoning ultimate from Harbor. Yeah, it's gonna be the worst ult of the game. I mean, you guys saw this one coming. It's pretty trash. You know, it could be possible that us, the community, haven't given it enough time to really come up with any good strategies or combos to pair with other agents or other abilities and stuff. But as of right now, it just really isn't that great of ability. Like, yeah, it kind of lets you know where the enemies are, and it has a pretty wide area of effect and kind of moves forward as well. You know that if a little thing is popping down on sight, you know that, okay, somewhere around the area an enemy is. And yeah, maybe like some of the time you might be able to get the stun on them and push them. A lot of times it's just gonna force them to move around, which is okay, right? It is okay being, you know, forcing enemies to move around on a site, and, you know, getting that judge, or, you know, the agent with the judge, the enemy with judge, or an op holding angle or whatever, getting them off that angle to move around to avoid the stun is okay. But right now, I think it just takes too long for the stun to come down. It's easily dodgeable. And yeah, I think Harbor's ultimate is probably the worst. Yeah, it is. It's the worst ultimate in the game. So yeah, what do you guys think about the list? There are some things I would like, you know, depending on the ranks and stuff, I would like to move some stuff around. But I think this is pretty solid for reliability for an average player to get when considering the value floor and value ceiling. Again, like I said, Tour de Force in Ye's hands is going to be incredible. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good pick, guys. Viper's Pit, best ult in the game. Right up there with like Sage, I would say, and then Harbor's is the worst. But yeah, if you guys have any opinions on what you think that your list would look like, or what your top three best or top three worst would be, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, notifications if you're new. Now with all that being said, Jeppy out.